Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something pretty unique, a spiritual discourse from way back in December 2004.
Ah, yes. Bob Dada's special hope every child gives blessings and receives blessings. It was revisited later, too, on April 6, 2025.
Right, right. And this is presented as like direct communication, from Bop Dada to they call it a gathering of carefree emperors.
And for you, the learner, joining us on this deep dive, what we're really aiming for here is to kind of unpack the core principles. How do you achieve this state of being, this carefree, regal soul?
Through spiritual practice, of course.
Exactly. We'll be looking very closely at this idea of exchanging positive energy. And just as important, how to let go of all the burdens that weigh us down.
Couldn't agree more. Consider this your guide to understanding some pretty profound concepts. We'll be exploring what true sovereignty really means and the surprising power that comes from inner purity.
We'll also delve into why contentment is so essential.
And of course, we'll uncover some practical steps that you can take for your own spiritual growth. Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We keep hearing this phrase, a gathering of carefree emperors. Who are we really talking about here?
Well, the discourse makes it clear that this isn't some kind of, exclusive club. It's referring to every child. Essentially everyone on the spiritual path. Anyone connected to this understanding, really.
Everyone.
Yeah. And what's really fascinating is they're not just talking about experiencing this carefree emperor state during meditation or, special spiritual activities.
It's about more than that.
Much more. It's meant to be a constant reality from the moment you wake up, all day long, even while you're working, and yes, even as you sleep.
Wow, that's a pretty tall order, to maintain that kind of state consistently.
It is.
So what's the foundation, for that unwavering state of being? The discourse mentions this idea of spiritual pride, ruhani fakhur. Now, usually pride has a kind of negative connotation.
It does, doesn't it?
So how does this spiritual pride actually help in becoming a carefree emperor?
That's a great question and a crucial distinction. See, this spiritual pride isn't about ego or arrogance, the conventional sense. It's more about a deep, unshakable sense of your own inherent worth. Self-respect stemming from your spiritual identity
I see.
is that profound understanding of your true nature, your pure nature as a soul.
Okay, so it's like recognizing your inherent royalty.
Exactly.
Yes.
As a spiritual being, completely separate from, any external labels or achievements. And this foundational spiritual pride is what this carefree state is built upon.
So it's a deeply internal recognition of self-worth, not tied to anything external.
Exactly.
Now, the discourse connects this idea of a carefree emperor to being a self-sovereign authority. In the text, it's Swaraja Adhikari. What does that actually look like in our daily lives?
Well, think of it this way. Being a self-sovereign authority means you have complete mastery over your senses.
Over your senses.
Yes, your karmandriyan. You're in control, not just of your actions, but also your reactions.
Yeah.
Not driven by, outside influences or even internal impulses.
So you're the one in the driver's seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the discourse explains that we achieve this inner sovereignty by consciously giving up our worries, our anxieties, everything that concerns us. We hand it over to the Father, the Supreme Being.
So it's a conscious act of spiritual surrender to relieve those mental burdens.
Right.
And what happens if we don't do that? If we don't embrace this carefree sovereignty? The text contrasts this idea of baskets of burdens, bochkatokre, with wearing a crown of light. That's quite the image.
It is, isn't it? It's a really powerful image. Those baskets of burdens represent all the worries, the anxieties, the negative thought patterns that just weigh us down.
Right.
They obscure our true nature, our luminous nature.
Blocking the light, so to speak.
Exactly. And then you have this beautiful image of the crown of light, pavitratake, light kataj, symbolizing purity, spiritual power, inner radiance. And it all comes naturally when we're carefree, when we're self-sovereign.
I like that. The crown of light makes you think about the double crowns you see in the memorial images.
It does. And the discourse actually points to that, suggesting it represents that spiritual sovereignty achieved through purity. It's a kind of sovereignty that earthly rulers, despite their worldly power, just don't have.
So shedding those mental burdens, it's not just about feeling better, it's the direct path to unlocking your innate spiritual power. It's about experiencing the brilliance of your true self, that crown of light. It's a good reminder. Each worry we release, it's a step towards reclaiming our inherent sovereignty. Now, let's say someone has truly reached this state of being a carefree emperor. What are the signs? What are the indicators?
That's a good question. The discourse emphasizes that the main sign is a state of constant inner satisfaction and this natural ability to, bring satisfaction to others. It suggests that when we lack contentment, it's because we feel like we don't have a sense of aprapti.
Makes sense. If you constantly feel like you're lacking something, it's hard to be truly carefree.
Exactly.
And there's a quote in the discourse about this, right? About the abundance that's available.
There is. It says, nothing is unattainable in the treasures of Brahmins, if not of deities. Meaning, through this spiritual path, individuals have access to, well, it's like a endless reservoir of spiritual wealth and resources. So any feeling of lack is, well, unfounded.
We already have everything we need, just need to tap into it. It's interesting. The discourse really points out that unshakable contentment, that's the real spiritual currency. It's not just some fleeting emotion. It's the tangible evidence that you've realized your inherent spiritual wealth. That's the state where nothing external can touch your inner joy. It goes on to say that contentment, santushta, is the ultimate adornment, the truest measure of a life well lived. So, if we're always striving for more, always feeling unfulfilled,
That's a sign.
yeah, it means we haven't grasped this state of carefree contentment.
Right.
So how do we get there? What's the method, the practical way to transition into this carefree emperor state?
This is where the central teaching comes in. It's simple, but it's also profound. A shift in perspective, really. Moving from mind, mera, to offering everything is yours, para. It's total surrender of ego, of attachment.
Interesting. The discourse points out the subtle difference between the words me and ti in the Hindi script.
It does. To highlight this fundamental change in, ownership
Yeah.
and perspective.
Wow, a small change in script, a huge shift in meaning. So constantly holding on to that mine mentality, that strong sense of ownership and attachment.
It hinders us.
Yeah.
It really does.
Interesting.
The discourse actually says that this mine attachment makes us slaves of Maya Kadas, and leads to sadness, udas. And when we talk about Maya here, it's not just external temptations. It's the internalized beliefs, the patterns that create a false sense of self, and attachment to what's impermanent.
Yeah.
But when we surrender to yours, we become victorious over Maya, Simajit.
So we're making a choice every moment.
We are.
But the text acknowledges that letting go of that mindness, it's not easy. It mentions this deeply rooted habit of sadness.
Right. After what they call 63 cycles, a very long time, that tendency towards sadness and attachment,
Yeah.
it can be deeply ingrained.
It can surface even when we're trying to move past it.
Exactly. And that's why they emphasize the importance of consciously releasing any worries we're holding on to, making a firm decision in each moment to choose between double light, that true carefree state, or continuing to carry those unnecessary burdens.
So it's an ongoing choice, not just a one-time decision.
Absolutely.
And the discourse gives us some homework to help us with this, right?
Yes, it does.
What is it?
It recommends self-reflection during Amrit Vela, those early morning hours before dawn. It's a time to check for any subconscious burdens or attachments that might still be there. But the key isn't just identifying them, it's actively shifting from mine to yours.
There's that shift again. And the discourse also reminds us that time is speeding up.
Yes.
And we need to accelerate our spiritual progress, too, to fly spiritually, not just walk.
Exactly.
So what gives us wings? What enables this spiritual flight, this accelerated progress?
Well, they identify 3 wings: enthusiasm, uman, zeal, utsa, and courage, himat. They also emphasize this promise of support from the Father every step of the way.
It sounds like a very loving and supportive connection.
It is. And there's this interesting point made that love, muhabbat, actually lessens the feeling of effort.
Less effort when there's love.
Right. They contrast the weariness of those 63 cycles with this opportunity we have now
Yeah.
to become masters of what they call 3 thrones.
3 thrones.
Yes, 3 thrones.
That sounds important. What are they?
They describe them as the Alokik throne, which represents an elevated state of spiritual awareness and understanding. Then there's the heart throne of Bapdada, signifying a constant close connection with the divine.
I see.
And finally, the throne of the future world kingdom, representing our ultimate spiritual destiny.
So 3 levels of spiritual mastery.
Yes. And the discourse asks you, the learner, to really reflect. Are you experiencing yourself as seated on these 3 thrones in your consciousness?
That's a powerful image to hold on to. The discourse also mentions the checking of our spiritual progress and the accumulation of treasures. What kind of charts are being referred to here?
Well, the excerpt mentions that Bapdada checks these charts of effort in 4 subjects: though it doesn't go into detail about the
The six
specifics.
objects, okay.
But the focus quickly shifts to the treasures we've accumulated.
Our spiritual treasures.
Yes, and a key point here is that everyone gets the same amount of treasures at the start.
Equal starting point. It's about what we do with them.
Mm.
So what's the most valuable treasure?
The most valuable treasure is the treasure of elevated thoughts. Shresh Sankalpa Hasana.
Our thoughts are that powerful.
They're the foundation. And this present moment, Vardhaman Samay, this very time we have now, is also considered a precious treasure. It's this crucial period for our spiritual growth.
So every moment is precious, and the discourse warns us about being careless with these treasures, right?
Absolutely. Wasting valuable thoughts and precious time is like losing spiritual attainments, like squandering material wealth and ending up in poverty.
It hinders our growth.
It does. So, alongside elevated thoughts and the present moment, we also have the treasures of spiritual knowledge. Began the development of virtues, guno, the cultivation of inner powers, shaktiyan, and the accumulation of blessings, dwayan from other souls, and the Supreme Soul, Paramatma.
It's quite a list.
It is.
And this brings us to this idea of exchanging blessings. Dwayan do our dwayan lo. Why is this back and forth so important?
This constant exchange of blessings,
Mhm.
giving and receiving happiness, is presented as something very easy and natural, sahaj, but incredibly important.
Okay.
The discourse strongly advises against giving or taking sorrow, any kind of negativity,
Even when it's directed at us.
especially then. Even if someone is sending negative energy, criticism, the guidance is to not absorb it, because, doing so creates weaknesses inside. It hinders our spiritual perfection.
It's about protecting our inner state, maintaining that crown of light.
Yes. And the discourse affirms that everyone present, including those new to the path and even those from different backgrounds, they call them double foreigners.
Double foreigners.
It affirms that everyone understands this principle of giving and receiving blessings.
Everyone. That's good. What about when we do encounter negativity? What about bad dua?
They offer a powerful strategy. If you encounter a negative energy, counteract it by consciously giving 10 times more blessings in return. The understanding is that absorbing negativity harms us.
The receiver, not the giver.
Exactly.
It's a powerful way to look at it. Now, the title of this discourse mentions Bapdada's special hope. What is that hope?
It's quite simple, actually. Bapdada's hope is that every child, regardless of location or role, including those who are cooperating, constantly gives blessings.
Yeah.
It's about actively building up a reserve of positive blessings.
Building up a reserve.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, not just for ourselves, but to share with others in the future,
Sure.
even during the periods of worship that come later in the spiritual cycle.
Thinking long term.
Always. And the discourse has very high regard for everyone involved. It clearly states that Bapdada sees each child as a king child, Rajabaka.
Each one of us is a king child.
Yes. And there's this mention of a 6-month period of homework, an expectation to see tangible results from our efforts within a month, especially since, at the time of this discourse, the new year was approaching.
So, high expectations, but also a lot of support.
All right.
Now, there's a special message for those new to this path, right?
There is. Those newcomers to Madhuban, a place of great spiritual significance, they're warmly welcomed and acknowledged as being especially beloved.
It's a welcoming place.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's also mentioned that, because they're new, they might be more susceptible to negative influences, Maya.
That makes sense.
And the advice given to them is to regularly check their novelty, to consciously identify what new virtue or power they've adopted each day.
So it's a daily check-in.
Exactly. And that's seen as a vital way to stay protected, to steadily progress towards that immortal state.
Beautiful.
The discourse then wraps up with some really encouraging words for all the practitioners.
Different groups are mentioned.
Yes, the carefree emperors, the elevated souls, those making intense effort, they say, Tivra Purusharthi et Mawan, and the best servers, Shresh Savatari Bakshon. They're all addressed with deep love and greetings from Bapdada.
Love and greetings to all. And there's a blessing shared as well.
Yes, there is.
What is it?
It says, may you be victorious over nature, one who makes all powers your cooperative assistants according to your order. It explains that nature is the ultimate servant.
Nature.
Yes. And those who master their inner nature, they have all powers working for them. Even the external elements work in their favor.
It's about aligning ourselves with nature.
Yes. But there's a warning, too. about wasting time in carelessness,
Hmm.
getting caught up in temporary achievements, and engaging in those wasteful thought patterns. Because those tendencies, they prevent our powers from working for us.
Blocking the flow.
Right. And they encourage us to check if our core powers, the power of resolve, the power of decision, and the power of sanskar, are inherent tendencies, if they're all in alignment.
Inner harmony.
Yes. So our spiritual potential can manifest fully.
And there's a slogan, too.
Yes. Continue to sing the praises of Bapdada, and you will yourself become the embodiment of virtues.
So through remembrance, we embody those virtues.
Exactly.
And finally, there's an unexpressed signal.
There is.
What's the message?
It says, become constantly victorious through the remembrance of the combined form. It stresses that real success in our spiritual journey, both our inner transformation and our service to others, requires us to remember the combined form.
That interconnectedness of all souls.
Yes, and our connection to the divine.
Yeah.
And this combined effort, this remembrance, it's presented as the key to success, the way to experience real growth in our spiritual lives.
Working together. So for you, the learner, after this deep dive into Bapdada's special hope, it's clear that becoming a carefree emperor isn't about external power or status.
It's not.
It's an inner transformation, and it's ongoing.
Very much so.
It's about letting go of worry, letting go of attachment, cultivating deep contentment.
And remembering our inherent spiritual wealth.
Yes, and actively exchanging blessings with ourselves and everyone around us.
Giving and receiving. And at the heart of it all is that shift in perspective from mine to yours.
Right. Letting go of ego, letting go of attachment, embracing that surrender, and achieving true inner sovereignty.
That's the key.
So we've talked about inner sovereignty, the power of our thoughts, and the crown of light. Here's something to consider. What if you consciously chose empowering thoughts throughout your day? What if you directed your mental energy towards affirming your true nature, releasing any limiting beliefs?
It's a powerful practice.
Imagine how that could contribute to experiencing that crown of light more consistently. And really, that's what this is all about, taking these timeless principles, these teachings, and thinking about how we can apply them to our daily lives.
Every single day.
To cultivate that carefree, regal state within and live it.
Yes, live it.